Hi everyone, big news! A few hours ago, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone was dismantled without a single shot fired. I prepared this video to debrief us about this failed experiment. Some of this may be stuff you've heard before, but I assure you there'll be lots of new stuff too. And now Antifa and the autonomous zones. American and European Antifa also tried to create an autonomous zone in Syria. They called it Rojava. They did this by fighting alongside the YPG, a Kurdish self-proclaimed anarcho-Marxist militia which the US military also fights alongside, even though they have it listed as a terrorist organization. I warned for years that they would go to Syria, get military training, and eventually try to replicate their revolution in the West. In fact, the people behind the CHAZ autonomous zone say they are using Rojava as a template. Indeed, there are many similarities to draw between the CHAZ and the Kurdish Autonomous Zone, Rojava. In a way, the CHAZ was like a small microcosm of what happened in Syria. Flying the US flag was not allowed in CHAZ, just like flying the Syrian flag is not allowed in Rojava. And though they claim it is a place for racial equality, it descends into being an ethno-state, just like the Kurdish Autonomous Zone, Rojava. They claim to be against states and police, but eventually they had to create their own militia, CHAZ Security, which ends up being more repressive than the one that they forced out. Just like Rojava. It's ironic that CHAZ began by cops killing a black man and ended by security killing a black boy. The CHAZ was a war zone, just like Rojava.
What's happening? Very common with liberals, and a lot of them are very, very unconnected to each other. No, that's definitely dominant, right?
Can you hear that? Go, go, Browns, and they get the go! Go!
Go ahead, go ahead.
There is a lot of shooting going on right now.
The only reason CHAZ was allowed to exist was because of the mayor of Seattle, and when she pulled her support, it very quickly crumbled. Within 1 hour, the police went in and dismantled it without a single shot fired. And that is exactly what's going to happen to the Rojava Autonomous Zone in Syria.
They should.
I am Sergeant Renner of the Seattle Police Department. I am now issuing a public safety order to disperse, and I command all those assembled immediately disperse, which means leave this area. If you do not do so, you may be arrested or subject to other police action. Other police action could include use of chemical agents or less lethal munitions, which may inflict significant pain or result in serious injury. If you remain in the area just described, regardless of your purpose, you will be in violation of city and state law. Leave southbound on 12th Avenue. You have 3 minutes to disperse.
When I say Antifa, I'm not talking about the teenage sympathizer that does a bit of graffiti and calls themselves anti-fascist. I'm talking about a particular brand of violent militants that follow Murray Bookchin's anarcho-communist ideology. Like the man who is described in this Mother Jones article written by suspected Mossad agent Shane Bower. Back in the United States, Barry was part of the Antifa movement. He would brawl with fascists, sometimes carrying a concealed gun to the protests, just in case. It was in these circles that Barry first heard about Rojava, this semi-autonomous Kurdish region in northeast Syria that has become a cause célèbre in anarchist circles. The ideological force behind the Occupy Wall Street movement, the CHAZ Autonomous Zone, and the Syrian Kurds was a Zionist by the name of Murray Bookchin. He was especially influential to Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan, who is listed as a terrorist by the United States. Now, Trump claims he will label Antifa as a terrorist organization, yet the US military is still supporting them and the YPG in Syria. When Trump tried to pull out of Syria, all the liberal Zionists kicked up a fuss about the poor anarcho-communist groups that would be abandoned. Of course, he capitulated and is currently occupying Syria's oil fields. It is important for the Zionists to glorify Rojava to the left, where ethnic cleansing of non-Kurds, such as Arabs and Assyrian Christians, has been happening. It is their bleeding heart story to maintain the empire's occupation of Syria. They believe they are creating an anarchist socialist utopia. In reality, they're behaving as the foot soldiers for Israel's Oded Yunon plan to balkanize Syria and prevent it from accessing its own resources, such as oil and wheat. In fact, Israel was built on anarcho-communist autonomous zones called kibbutz. Even before World War II, European Zionists came to Palestine as illegal immigrants and began living off these kibbutz. Joseph Trumpeldor, who later became a hero of the Israeli right, declared himself an anarcho-communist. Noam Chomsky was part of the Zionist kibbutz movement, and unsurprisingly, he calls for the US occupation of Syria to be maintained in order to create a Kurdistan. The anarcho-syndicalist ideology was born in 1917 alongside the Russian Revolution. However, it wasn't immediately associated with Antifa. Antifa was the militia arm of the German Communist Party during the Weimar Republic, first called Anti-Fascist Action. In the beginning, the militia was allied to Stalin and the Soviet Union, but then there was an ideological split. After the split, Antifa rejected Stalinism and really almost all forms of government, and became more aligned with anarcho-syndicalism or anarcho-communism. So, they are repeating the template they used to create Israel, to create a second Israel called Rojava, Kurdistan, in Syria. And now, they're doing it in the US, for reasons that are perhaps not yet clear. But what is clear is this isn't over yet. Just as the CHAZ was being dismantled, New York City has started its own autonomous zone. I believe the chaos will probably continue until the elections. But do note that Antifa is not the same thing as Black Lives Matter. Remember when I said this in my last video? The truth is, if Black Lives Matter focused on AIPAC and its wars, they'd be shut down very quickly. I was right. This has been Syrian Girl. Please subscribe for more news and analysis. And if you like, support me on Patreon. Thank you.